Coming up this week, we get your ideas for a national prescription drug plan. Also, what effect has a lower loonie had on you? This and much more to come. Hitting the streets, this is Outburst. Hello and welcome to Outburst. I'm Glenn McGuinness. Canada holds the distinction of being the only industrialized nation in the world to offer universal health care, but no universal pharmacare. Many patients, senior citizens included, are not covered for the medications they need, and many can't afford it. Also, if you move from province to province, coverage may vary, and it could hit the patient hard in the pocketbook. So we took the first question to you. What is the best way for Canada to develop a national prescription drug plan?
So I think probably the best way to do that would be maybe start some sort of insurance plan. So kind of like OHIP is right now, extending that to drug plans. So you could do something, I think you'd have to do it provincially, so maybe you could regulate it under the provincial government, so you could get that started as like some sort of bill, or I don't know how you would set that up provincially, so you'd have to, I don't know, I guess like, start by making some sort of insurance plan that starts at the provincial level.
Probably develop sound federal guidelines that pretty much regulate how it works through the provinces, but that'll be almost impossible because the provinces never seem to work together.
If we have a better social system to be able to help with the mental health challenges that we have in the country, that's a big draw on people that use prescriptions. They need them because their mental health is not in a good place. So if we could address those issues and solve those issues, then we won't have such a great need for them. Then the cost won't be so horrendous. Instead of fixing the problem with prescriptions after we've created the problem, maybe we should start avoiding having the problem in the first place.
Well, it does need more central coordination. That much is clear, that as it were, with each province having its own system, that ends up costing more than if the federal government coordinated it. So I think it would be preferable for the federal government to get involved and to thus bring down the overall cost of medicine.
The people who are making the drugs, they have to make profit, right? So I'd say take out more money in the budget to like subsidize, right? That is the only way they could help to reduce the price. Because in the end, like, you're going to make, like, different initiatives and different things for the companies to, like, kind of make them reduce the price and taxes and all of that. But in the end, they are going to still want to put the prices up. So the best the government can do is subsidize it and then kind of reduce the price that the customers and, like, the rest of the normal people have to pay.
If you lower the cost maybe on some people that are on disability or welfare right now, they do have drug card, but a lot of the still are not covered. So if they lowered the cost a bit more, maybe more affordable for people.
I think the most effective way would probably be for the government to raise taxes so they could put more money into kind of either lowering the prices so people could get it at a cheaper rate, or to just pay for it like directly, I think, in my opinion.
First of all the provinces have to get together and discuss what the issues are, and then from there try and find ways of solving it. I think probably the benefits that are made by the drug industry itself, the ones that produce it, need to understand that they can't be jacking up the prices the way they are and expect that. And it's not even equal for everybody. It depends if you have a plan or not and all this stuff. Why do we have to have different prices for everybody? Why can't it be just uniform and be what we need to do to help people get better?
It's tough with the provinces being involved and having the ownership with healthcare spending in their own jurisdictions, and so you got to have everybody on board. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. Well, that with a lot of other issues as well. But medical costs keep going up, so I think it would be in good interest, at least to have the discussion, preliminary talks to see what they could do.
Well, if we return back to, like, in the 1990s, we had the CAP model, right, where the Canadian Assistance Plan, where the federal government would give funds and the provinces match those funds, or the vice versa. Whatever the provinces were spending, the federal government matched. So if we encouraged a spending-focused model like that, then it would encourage the provinces to spend. The way things have been going now, we just continue to cut things, and so those smaller services, those sideline services, end up getting cut. So the funds are there. It's really just how you want to approach approach it? Do you want to encourage spending for quality of life and for basic needs, or do you want to discourage it? Because right now our system's discouraging it.
Probably looking at other countries that have had successful ones and then maybe taking some of their policies.
It's expensive, especially for seniors. It's not covered. So we need more government to interfere in that. And then another thing for seniors, I came from Alberta. They don't pay any premium or anything. I pay here $75 a month. So I think they should do that. Follow Alberta.
Follow European countries by design. I don't know how it works, but Sweden, Finland have great programs. Healthcare is way better. Access to medications and things like that are a lot better. I don't know what they do that we're doing so much worse, because obviously we're losing billions of dollars in our healthcare, and you sort of wonder if our kids are going to have healthcare when they get older at the rate it's going. So I don't know, I'd follow the countries that are having success. And as I say, European countries are having more success than anybody else.
Well, I don't know, it needs government funding, I imagine. Drug companies, some of it's a little outrageous, where it should be more towards helping people than big profit. But whether Canadian government can change that, I don't know.
Which federal party was the first to elect a woman as leader? Green Party of Canada, NDP, Progressive Conservative Party?
NDP. I'd say Green Party. NDP.
I'm going to say NDP.
Those are the Conservatives? Conservatives. I'm going to go with Conservatives.
It's the NDP.
NDP.
Yeah. The same. No?
NDP. You got it right.
Yeah.
Audrey McLaughlin became the first woman to lead a recognized federal party in North America when she became NDP leader on December 4th, 1989.
The advent of social media has been a watershed moment in terms of how people from around the globe communicate with each other. But one downside has been the emergence of cyberbullying. It happens mostly with young people, but can occur at all ages, with tragic results too numerous to mention. So we took to the streets to get your take on how to fix the problem. Our question: what is the best way to stop cyberbullying?
I think the best way to stop cyberbullying is the same way to stop all bullying. You have to start with awareness. I just had this just yesterday. It came up, and the kids were 6, and they said, I didn't know. And then the question was, how would you feel if somebody said this about you? And then the tears poured, and they went, I wouldn't like it. So it's really a matter of making them aware and also making them realize, everyone realize, from your own perspective, how would you feel if that happened to you? And how would you feel? I remember reading years ago in a book, it said, how would you feel if that was on the front page of the paper? If what just came out of your mouth was on the news tonight, how would you feel? And if you're not going to feel good, don't say it.
Honestly, I think to educate people about it, especially like the younger kids, like I think there needs to be a lot more like I guess they need to be aware of it more, because I think when they do these types of things, they're not really aware because they're behind a screen and they feel anonymous, so they continue to say these mean things or hurtful things to other children. But I'm pretty sure that if you educate them and kind of make them see that it's actually the same as actually bullying someone in person, that I think they're most likely to stop.
We have to deal with that all the time. We're teachers, sorry. Yeah. So one of the things, like for us in terms of our own school board, is that once we find out about it, if it affects the students, especially inside the school, even though it's outside of school boundaries, we do have to do an investigation. And I think one of the things that I think we have to kind of do as a society and community is to probably look at trying to make people more aware of what they should and shouldn't be doing, online. I think there's a little bit, and again, not to say we should put a huge amount of restrictions in terms of public speech, but at the same time, I think they have to be kind of given some sort of guidelines as to what is tolerable, what's not tolerable. It'd be great if other people, older people, could set a better example online, right? Because we find that a lot of the students just mimic, right, whatever the older the older people are doing online.
And I think there also has to be a lot of education for parents as well in terms of what their kids are actually doing. And also we have seminars at our schools that talk about cyberbullying and what parents can do to curb it. And I think parents really do have to take responsibility to know what their kids are doing in their free time, because the kids have access to so much, and trying to restrict them is nearly impossible. So education is the key in this one, I think.
Well, I just think they should speak up and let somebody know and not just keep it a secret. I mean, but a lot of them think they have to keep it inside. So
these bullies are typically bullies are anonymous, or not anonymous, especially anonymous bullies, but they're typically cowards. So if you call them out on it and really challenge them on it, they usually back down. Most bullies are.
Best way to stop cyberbullying, that'd probably be awareness, and then just better raising of your own children, sort of talking to them, basically setting an example for them, giving them the right sort of mentorship and example to follow.
Stopping it is a pretty lofty goal. Probably maybe implementing some sort of measures online that would restrict maybe anonymous comments, having some sort of accountability for what you post online would be a good step, I think, in the right direction.
I guess the only real way you can is to just try and reinforce the fact that it's a real person on the other side of the screen. Too many people are too complacent in the fact that there's a degree of anonymity on the internet, and just reinforcing that there's a person that's going to be heard at the other side of it is about the biggest thing I could think of.
You know, I think you got to get into the schools and get to where the people are, and or the people that are involved with the social media, and let them know that the effects. There's definitely been some unfortunate incidents in Canada with cyberbullying, and if you use those as good examples, then hopefully something comes out of some terrible situations.
I don't believe there's a best way to stop it. It's very difficult to even police the resources and everything. It'd be very difficult. The best way to be ban social media, but you can't really do that unless you're in North Korea.
It probably begins at home, I guess. A lot of bullying starts from the house, right? So it's taught. It's not learned. You know what I mean? It's taught through the parents and stuff, and they bring that to the school as whatever they learned at home, right? So I guess it just kind of starts with the parents.
As an individual, you need to stand up for anybody that you feel is being bullied and have a conversation with the people that are bullying. Obviously, they have issues that need to be dealt with.
I think that's it's a symptom of the dehumanizing nature of staring at screens all day. You know, I think we need more. I think we need more events that get the public out talking face to face, you know, more interactions at the streetscape, because I think then it definitely humanizes the other person more, and it's not such an anonymous thing. I know that's a pretty big societal change, so maybe just require that everybody use their real names for everything online. I imagine that would probably go a long way.
I don't think you can stop cyberbullying. People like to pick on people because it makes them feel better about themselves. So you'll always have somebody that tries to put somebody else down to make themselves feel better about themselves. It's been going on for centuries.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm not sure you're ever going to stop it. I think a big part of it's like any kind of bullying, it's just done differently now, and that it's education and it's reach out and it's trying to get to the youth and get it at the grassroots. You know, you can't stop bullying in a schoolyard. It's just now it's on a computer.
Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, shares a birthday with another Canadian Prime Minister. Which one is it? Jean Chrétien, Stephen Harper, Brian Mulroney.
I'm just going to guess Mulroney on this one.
Oh, I know this. Stephen Harper.
Brian Mulroney. Brian Mulroney. Brian Mulroney.
Brian Mulroney.
I think it's Chrétien.
Jean Chrétien.
Oh, good for you.
January 11th is the birth date of Sir John A. Macdonald and fellow former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien.
The value of the Canadian dollar continues to seesaw below the 80-cent U.S. mark, and a volatile oil and gas industry could add more pressure to the loonie. Plus, some are predicting the Fort McMurray fire could bring the Canadian economy to a screeching halt. So in these uncertain economic times, we posed this question: what effect has a low Canadian dollar had on you?
Certainly staying within Canada for any traveling, and we've postponed our honeymoon until next year, so.
We were planning to go to Hawaii, but with the dollar like this, we decided to postpone it. And yeah, that would be like a negative effect. A positive effect is the people like me who has to send money overseas. They're getting slightly more money in their homes. So yeah, but still, like things like thinking about going to the States right now is a really hard decision to take.
We need to have a good economy with the U.S., and to have it low like that, there's just too much going on between our countries. It's costing us so much in so many ways and costing our economy.
Well, since I do travel a certain amount, it has affected me. It is unfortunate, but it is the consequence of relying on primary materials and of exporting raw produce. And I'd hope that Canada can move towards an economy that relies less on sort of products, on, as it were, raw products, and instead turns to developing things, a more knowledge-based economy, as the Prime Minister has suggested.
Honestly,
it's prevented me from traveling. Yeah. For sure, I'm doing local vacations this summer, and because the dollar is so fluctuating that I don't want to try and jinx taking a vacation far away. Mm. Yep.
Yeah, I would say the same. Just being conscious of always thinking about the exchange rate. Constantly is it's not exactly the most ideal thing to do when you're going out and about. We're just hopeful that there's going to be some steadiness, right? As time progresses. Yeah.
Travel is very expensive, especially in the United States. So that's where it really hits, especially when we start paying for airfare and then paying for trips and paying for accommodations and food. It really hits the pocketbook. So.
And what about as an American? How is the low Canadian dollar affecting you?
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper on me. Very much. Yes.
Shopping, trying to buy online, and I have to pay even more than I normally would. Yeah, that's the worst.
International student. I'm international, and now it costs me way more to pay my school fees than it did. So yeah, that's a very, very bad thing. I know.
On me, there's definitely been cutting in funding and basically job opportunities. So that's sort of given me a hit in terms of the amount of work that I get, and obviously my coworkers. So that's not fun.
Personally, I still have a job and stuff. I'm minding my pennies just to make sure that I don't find myself in the situation where you tend to overspend because you have the money. You need to always be prepared for difficult times. That could be just the fact that I was brought up around 10 kids with one income, and you tended to your needs more so than your wants.
It's given me a little bit of thought as to where I'm going to go holidaying. It just changes the scope a little bit, and it might change a bit of the investments or some of the money that I might have. But for all in all, day to day, aside from the prices at the grocery store, which I complain about, it's not been a too big of a deal.
The low dollar has impacted my kind of career path because I know that oil has dropped, which has drastically influenced the dollar, and so students my age are having a really difficult time getting into the job markets. And so obviously I'm a student, I can't really travel internationally, so going down to the States and whatnot doesn't really affect me all that much, but kind of looking forward to having a career in the next 2 to 3 years is, we're working hard for it, to just try and do everything we can to stand out so that we can get any kind of job that we can get our hands on.
Well, I actually just picked up some U.S. currency because I'm going traveling, and it was kind of a kick in the pants. So I think if the dollar was doing better, I would probably look more at traveling to Vegas or Seattle or Portland or, Texas or New York or whatever. But I think those will definitely be on hold. I mean, I'm not going to pay an extra 25% tax on every dollar I spend down there just because the loonie is a little bit weaker than the U.S. dollar. So definitely postponing U.S. travel plans. Mine's actually been relatively positive because I'm involved in the extraction businesses, commodities. So, a lot of that is priced U.S. dollars. So a low dollar has helped in softening commodity prices.
Well, let's see. I haven't been able to travel anywhere a lot. I'm going to the States or to the UK has been really hard because that's where I do some work. And also I just noticed the price of food has gone up, and just generally, I feel, just very stuck here in a little Canadian bubble.
It has a really good effect on me, actually. For being an artist, a lot of people come from the States to come buy art, for instance, and so actually it has a really good effect on my economy, my personal economy.
I'm a small business owner, and some of the products that I purchase have been affected because it comes from Alberta, and we're talking about bison right now, meat. And Alberta producers have been sending everything down south of the border because they're getting more bucks for their investments. So they're shorting the Canadian product, and I've seen a almost 40% increase in the product in the last year. So it has affected my ability to generate it's got into my margins, basically.
It's been unbelievable. It's been such a positive thing. The individuals in other countries with higher currencies, the rates that we charge for certain things are so much lower compared to our other national, other nations. It's fabulous. I wish for a 50-cent Canadian dollar. It's had such a great impact in my life.
I'm very, very frugal. I went on a financial fast the 1st of January because I needed new tires. But I don't have any savings available. I got a tiny bit of savings, teacher pension left, money. Can't go to that, so I had to cut back on everything. Only go to the store for what I need. And if that was celery and spinach, that's it. Don't use a shopping cart. That's deadly. Just carry only what you need and get out. And that way I was able to get the money for my tires. And I have to keep on doing that. There is no la-di-da, no fancy anything for me anymore.
The Bank of Canada recently announced its shortlist for iconic Canadian women to be featured on our currency, expected to be in circulation by 2018. The list includes artist Emily Carr, Nellie McClung, pioneer of the Canadian women's suffrage movement, as well as Anne of Green Gables author Lucy Maud Montgomery, just to name a few. So we took this opportunity to ask Canadians who they think should make the cut. Our question: which Canadian woman would you like to see featured on our currency?
Honestly, I think Mary Pickford. I think she did a humongous service to United Artists and trying to bring a sense of semblance to giving actors during the early years of the stage and screen rights beyond the studio. And it's a shame that she hasn't been even shortlisted on that particular list, because I think if you ask anybody, a female Canadian that they know of beyond fictional female Canadians, right? I like to think Mary Pickford will probably be one that people around the world would actually be able to identify with.
Emily Stowe, because she was one of the first female doctors for Canada, and she set a great example for the upcoming females of the country.
One of the women who are missing and an Indigenous woman who's missing currently would be a great example of someone to put on the currency. Why? Because I think it will raise public recognition of that issue and also highlight the importance of that person missing. They're not just missing and gone forever. They're missing, but they're at least recognized on our currency.
Certainly the women that were fundamental in getting us the vote. Wasn't that long ago, Yeah. Or being able to sign for our own medical conditions. When I had my first child, my husband had to sign my papers. 2.5 years later, when I had my daughter, he didn't have to sign. And that wasn't that long ago. That's within my mindset.
Roberta Bondar would be way up there. So I'm not as up on my Canadian history when it comes to great political women in terms of what they've done over the years, but certainly in modern times, Roberta Bondar would be way up there. Just to have the courage to actually, really what's, a man's world in terms of being an astronaut and doing what she's done and going to, up in space. And it's really awe-inspiring, as if you're a parent and you have daughters, you want to be able to tell them you can do anything, and she's perfect proof that you can.
Well, we already have the Canadarm on the back of the 5, right? So maybe we should put a female astronaut on the front of it.
Now, I think in terms of Canadian women, I think we need to recognize the grassroots efforts and the grandmothers who have built this country. Within marginalization, within racism and colonization, we really need to be looking at the grandmothers and the women that have held the positions of power and have taken up the spaces where the systems have failed us. So I think of Rose Henry, an Aboriginal activist on the West Coast. I think of Wendy Rose. She's an Aboriginal poet within this country. When you think about the spaces, and they're not as well known, but those are the women that have held up the spaces, that have held families together despite brutal policies that have tried to tear them apart, or based on their skin color, or based on where they've come from, or their income. We need to be looking at who's held this community together over who's someone who, managed to work their way, not to diminish the roles of women who've managed to work their way into politics, but they're still trying to access and uphold a broken system, and they're having to bend to fit within that system to even be in that place in the first place. So before we start to look at who in a position of power should be honored, we should be looking at the women on the ground and the grassroots women who have done so much for families and communities.
Adrienne Clarkson, the former Governor General, I always thought she was a brilliant mind, very well spoken, and really left her mark on what a woman can do in a position such as Governor General.
So either somebody who is First Nations, or a completely anonymous woman who represents the diversity of many, many women living in the city.
Do you know what? I saw an article on this the other day, and I have to bow my head in shame, I guess, as a man, because I actually could not recognize any of the female figures just by looking at them. So I do need to put some more thoughts into that.
In what province would you find the federal riding with the longest name? British Columbia, Newfoundland and Labrador, or Ontario?
Newfoundland and Labrador.
Newfoundland and Labrador?
Newfoundland and Labrador.
No, Newfoundland, Labrador.
Ontario?
British Columbia?
It is British Columbia.
Okay, cool.
Very good.
At 48 characters, British Columbia's West Vancouver Sunshine Coast Sea to Sky Country is the longest riding name in Canada.
That's all for this episode of Outburst. Just a reminder, don't forget to check out our new CPAC TV To Go app and our CPAC Quiz Canada Trivia app. For more information, check our website, www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of all my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.